everyone, my name is Mansi Gucharia. Today I will discuss the theme of the novel Pride and Prejudice. This is my personal information. Now we can see a basic introduction of the novel. Pride and Prejudice was written by Jane Austen. This novel was published in 1830, a novel that largely deals with the manner. In especially, we can see a novel, Mrs. Bennet character. In Bennet character, we can see a manner. The story of Mr. and Mrs. Bennet's 5 daughters and her marriage. Uh, First, most important theme of the novel is a marriage. In a Jane Austen's time, marriage is often an economical rather than Uh, social arrangement. Uh, in our India, so many states, women get married for economic, for a wealth and social status. In that day, marriage was often the only option for a Uh, young woman. Especially, we can see Mrs. Bennet and her 5 daughters. Mrs. Bennet's main purpose is get married and get settled for his 5 daughters. In this novel, we can see four main marriages. Uh, first marriage is First marriage is Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth. This novel is a love marriage. Uh, uh, Elizabeth is not see a wealth and social status of Mr. Darcy. Uh, Mr. Darcy, but in a starting of novel, Mr. Darcy, uh, Mr. Darcy was not uh, angry, not loves with Elizabeth because Elizabeth comes from a lower class, and Mr. Darcy is come from upper class. But end of the novel, he is ready for a marriage. A second marriage is Mr. Bingley and Jane. Uh, in this marriage, uh, social status is important. Jane and his mother see a social status of Mr. Bingley. A third marriage is Lydia and Wickham. Uh, uh, in this marriage, Lydia see social status and wealth of Wickham because Lydia is a young girl and she is not a burden to her parents. That's why he married Mr. Wickham. In the fourth marriage is Mr. Collins and Charlotte. Uh, in the during this novel, she is said to Elizabeth. Uh, Elizabeth that Collins have a higher social position and better wealth. That's why I married Mr. Collins. Second theme is social class and economics. Theme of novel is also distinction between upper class and the lower class of society. It is so common in the 18th century. In this novel, we can see that Darcy is come from upper class and Elizabeth is come from a lower class. That's why Darcy is not agree with a marriage. But end of the novel, Darcy is fall in love with Elizabeth and they are happily married. Uh, in the other case, Mr. Bingley and uh, Jane is coming from a lower class and Mr. Bingley is coming from upper class. But end of the novel, both have married. Uh, woman in this novel. Uh, in the late 18th century, women had a very specific role in society. Their primary role was to get married, have a children, and maintain a household for their husband. Uh, their husband. Uh, in this novel, Mrs. Bennet Main purpose is get married, her four daughter, and get settled. Uh, in our Indian law, girls in our Indian law, girls should get married in 18 years old. If a girl pass a 18 year and get old, that's a problematic for society and family. Even this novel, Mrs. Bennet's main purpose is getting married for his five daughters. Elizabeth is not a contrast to this definition of the ideal woman. She is a clever and opinionated, but end of the novel, she chose the life of 19th century. Conclusion. Pride and Prejudice themes discuss Jane Austen's story and discuss marriage, social class, economics, and self-knowledge seen throughout the book. This is my work citation.